Good morning, dear students. Welcome to today's science class. We are learning chapter 11, the nature of matter. Till now, we have learnt about matter, its physical states, properties, existence, pure substances like elements and compounds, metals, non-metals, metalloids, and compounds. Today, we are going to cover three topics: the smallest particle of a compound, the smallest particle of an element, formulae of elements and compounds. Let us begin our class. The smallest particle of a compound. A molecule is the smallest particle of a compound. Take a compound such as common salt and break it into smaller and smaller pieces. What we will get at the end, the smallest particle, which is still a salt, has all the properties of the salt. This particle can be called molecule. So, we can define molecule as the smallest particle of a compound which has all the properties of that compound. Molecule is formed when two or more similar or different types of atoms are chemically combined together. Molecule is capable of independent existence. Example of molecule: oxygen O2, hydrogen H2, carbon dioxide CO2, water H2O, magnesium oxide MgO, etc. Let us learn the next topic, the smallest particle of an element. An atom is the smallest particle of an element. Take an example of iron sulfide. It is composed of elements like iron and sulfur, and it is a compound. Each molecule of the compound iron sulfide contains iron and sulfur that have joined chemically together. Thus, within each molecule of this compound, there are smaller particles of iron and sulfur. So, we can define atom as the smallest particle of an element that combine chemically with other elements. Atom comes from a Greek word which means individual, indivisible, or cannot be cut. So, atom is the smallest particle which cannot be cut further. Atoms of one element are all alike, but atoms differ in properties from the atoms of other elements. Atoms may or may not exist freely or independently. Atoms take part in all chemical reaction. Examples of atom: O for oxygen, H for hydrogen, C for carbon, etc. Today's third topic is formulae of elements and compounds. A formula indicates the actual number of each kind of atoms contained in a molecule. Just as a symbol represents the atom of an element, the formula represents the molecule of an element or a compound. For example, the symbol of oxygen is O, but the formula of oxygen gas is O2. In the representation of chemical formula, we take into consideration the number of atoms present in a molecule. So, the number of atoms present in single molecule of an element is known as its atomicity. We can see here from the table that a molecule of hydrogen is formed by joining two hydrogen atoms chemically. Similarly, molecules of oxygen is formed by joining two atoms of oxygen. Nitrogen molecule is made by joining two atoms of nitrogen. Helium, we can see here, is formed by one atom of helium, so it is He. Atoms of sulfur. 8 atoms of sulfur come together to form one molecule of sulfur. Phosphorus. 4 atoms of phosphorus come together to make one molecule of phosphorus. The molecules of an element contain one or more atoms of same kind. A molecule containing one atom is called monovalent. Mono in Greek means one. So one atom, monovalent. Hydrogen, lithium, sodium, chlorine, etc. are examples of monovalent molecules. A molecule containing two atoms of same kind is called divalent. Di means in Greek two. So two atoms of same kind makes divalent. Magnesium, copper, iron, zinc, lead, etc. are examples of divalent metals. Nitrogen atom is trivalent, means 3 atoms. Carbon atom is tetravalent, means 4 atoms. The symbolic representation of a molecule of a compound is called its chemical formula. The molecule of compounds contain atoms of different elements chemically joined together. For example, a molecule of water is formed by joining two atoms of hydrogen and one atom of oxygen and is represented as H2O. A molecule of carbon dioxide is formed by joining one atom of carbon and two atoms of oxygen and is represented as CO2. One molecule of magnesium oxide is formed by joining one atom of magnesium and one atom of oxygen and is represented as MgO. A molecule of calcium sulfide is formed by joining one atom of calcium and one atom of sulfur and is represented as CaS. Now let us see some common compounds. Oxides are compounds that contain oxygen and one or more other elements. Oxides of metals are called metallic oxides. Some metallic oxides are calcium oxide made up of calcium and oxygen, copper oxide made up of copper and oxygen, iron oxide made up of iron and oxygen, zinc oxide made up of zinc and oxygen, magnesium oxide made up of magnesium and oxygen, lead oxide made up of lead and oxygen. Now let us see some other compounds. Sulfides are compounds that contain sulfur and one or more other elements. Sulfides of metals are called metallic sulfides. For example, calcium sulfide is made up of calcium and sulfur and is represented as CaS. Copper sulfide made up of copper and sulfur represented as CuS. Iron sulfide made up of iron and sulfur represented as Fes. Zinc sulfide made up of zinc and sulfur represented as ZnS and so on. This is all about chapter The Nature of Matter, and what we have learned till date is matter, its states, its properties, its existence, pure substances like elements and compounds, classification of elements, into metals, non-metals and metalloids, symbols of elements, molecule, atom, formulae of elements and compounds. With this, we finish the explanation of chapter 11, the nature of matter. Thank you, children. Have a great day.